Hey, it's Joe Amoia, founder and creator of GPSforlove.com. I was recently having a conversation with one of my private mentoring clients who was in a situation where she was dating this guy. And for the first couple of weeks, everything was great. Okay, they got along, there was great chemistry, they had so much in common. And then almost suddenly, the guy did like a 360. And then he just started withdrawing. He stopped calling as much. When he showed up, he was very distant. He was very cold. And then ultimately, what the guy did is he said, you know what? I just need time. I'll call you. And then he disappeared. And this woman's sitting back and she's going like, WTF, like, what the, and she's like, I don't get it. And she's saying to me, Joe, I don't get it. And it's a typical response from my end when you understand human behavior. I'm just like, this guy's got some baggage. And she's like, I hear that term all the time. What does it mean? And I'm like, you know what? We throw these terms around all the time, but we don't really understand what it is. Or we have an idea, but we're not crystal clear. So I thought, what a great topic to create a video on. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about baggage today. So let me tell you what my definition of baggage is, because I'm very clear in my life that I don't want to be cloudy on things. I don't want to be unsure. I want to be clear and concise on pretty much everything in my life so I can then decide what works for me. So my definition of baggage is any unresolved emotional stuff from your past which is preventing you from having the love and the relationship that you say you want. Okay, let me repeat that. It's any resolved emotional stuff from your past which is preventing you from having the love and relationship that you say you want. So pretty clear, pretty concise. So when your emotional stuff is coming to the surface, or when it comes to the surface, that ultimately stops you and it prevents you from having the love that you say you want. See, the thing about our emotional stuff, and let me explain what emotional stuff is. We have these things called beliefs. Now, most of our beliefs are unconscious. They're like little programs in our brain that we don't even realize are even there. Now, if you've done some kind of work or, you've been in therapy, you probably are aware of unconscious beliefs and how they work and how that 96 to 98% of everything we say or do originates on an unconscious level. But for most of us, we're like robots just trying to get through life, and we don't even realize that we're programmed to be a certain way. So these unconscious beliefs are literally just running our lives. So how these unconscious beliefs work is that, you're in a relationship like this guy was, and then all of a sudden, these unconscious beliefs start coming to the surface. And instead of having the skills and tools to deal with it, to be present, to be conscious enough to go, you know what, this is my stuff. I better work on this and I better fix it before I run away, before I shut down. What most people do is they do what they do. So an avoider will avoid. A victim will be a victim. A blamer will blame. People do what people do. That's the beauty of life, is when you're dating, you just simply have to observe, and people show you who they really are, and they show you literally how they're programmed to be. So, for instance, I was dating this woman where in the beginning, like this story, everything was relatively cool. You were getting along, we were getting to know each other. And then I started noticing that she was very defensive all the time and bordering on the edge of like almost like slight anger. And then one day we were having a conversation. Actually, we were going out to dinner. So she shows up at my house and I'm like, hey, you know what? You look really nice today. And her response was, don't I look nice the other days? And I was like, whoa, holy shit. I'm like, I just gave you a compliment. And instead of saying, hey, thank you, you turn around and you start making me wrong because I didn't compliment you the same way on another day. And it's like, that's what you're going to focus on. And the more I got to know her, the more I saw that she had a lot of baggage. And basically her baggage was all around that she never got the love she was looking for from her dad. So basically she didn't feel good enough. She didn't feel worthy. And so anytime she felt attacked, even if you were complimenting her and she wasn't complimented in a certain way, she would turn it around because her baggage was she wasn't good enough. She wasn't worthy enough. And it was like, well, obviously that relationship didn't last and we went our separate ways. But I want you to understand that, if you have unresolved emotional stuff, you have some baggage, it's really in your best interest to deal with it. Now, we all have baggage, okay? Because we're simply human beings on a journey, and we're very emotional creatures. So we come into this world and we're given a set of parents. And even if we have the greatest parents in the world, they tend to do things that fuck us up, that cause us some unresolved emotional stuff, these unresolved emotional beliefs. And then we live our lives according to those things. And then we try and have relationships. Now, if we're conscious or those beliefs aren't too strong, we can go and have healthy relationships. I say that's when your baggage is like a purse. It's like, it's really not a big deal. I've got some things there, but it doesn't stand in the way. It doesn't prevent me from having the relationship that I really want. That's kind of how it was when I met my wife, Natalie. She had some stuff, but in the big scope of life, it was nothing. It was nothing that we couldn't deal with or that we couldn't work on. And to be quite transparent, I had my stuff. So it wasn't like, she was the only one with baggage and I had nothing. We all have stuff. I don't care who you are. Every one of us has stuff. So, having baggage, you can have a little purse or you can have a luggage carousel, like at the airport, where baggage after baggage after baggage after baggage keeps emerging, keeps appearing. Okay. If that's the kind of baggage you have and that's preventing you from having the relationship that you want, or it's standing in your way, that's something you want to be aware of, because trust me, us guys, we see that. Especially as you get older, most of the demographics of our GPS for Love community are late 30s to mid 50s. And it's like, at this stage, we're like, you know what? Red flag, I'm out of there. This person's got too much baggage. And it works both ways. If you have too much baggage and a guy sees that, a guy's going to go, you know what? Wait a minute. This is going to be too much work. No matter what I say, no matter what I do, is never going to be good enough. She's never going to be open. She's never going to trust me, whatever it is. And ultimately, a guy says, you know what? Screw this. I'm done. I'm out of here. So the purpose of GPS for Love is to shine light on like the truth and what it really takes to create a great, happy, fulfilling, long-lasting relationship. Because that's the goal. That's the intention. And if you've got a little purse, not a problem. But if you have some unresolved emotional stuff that's standing in the way, that's preventing you from being open to a man's love, a man's affection, a man's attention, then do yourself a favor. Find someone who's trained, someone who understands how to help you resolve this stuff. Because what you need to understand is not dealing with it is causing you more pain in the long run. And one of the biggest fallacies that's out there in the therapeutic world, the therapeutic model, is that people are broken and people need to be fixed. And I just hate that. It's like, I hear people, I need to fix myself. I'm like, you don't need to fix yourself. You're a human being. You just do things that don't work for you. So just go learn how to do them better and you'll be okay. And so it just blows my mind. So I want to put a video today that just shines light that, if you do have baggage, this is where you need to look. This is what you need to work on. So I believe that there are 3 telltale signs which will let you know if you have emotional baggage, that emotional stuff which is unresolved, which is preventing you from having the relationship that you say you want. So the first one is that you have a hard time trusting guys. Now, I know based on your past, based on your experience, you go, Joe, but I deserve to not trust guys. You don't understand all the shit that they've done to me. I get it. Okay. Life isn't unfair. If you watch my videos, there's a ton of boys out there. There always has been and there always will be. Okay. But there's also some really great guys who are trustworthy. And I always say, trust is a right, not a privilege. A man has to earn your trust. You don't give him your trust until he's earned it. That's one of the ways you'll identify the right guy when he comes along. So if you have a hard time trusting guys, something you might want to look at. Okay, the second one is you tend to run. Things start getting hot and heavy. You start developing feelings, and all of a sudden it's like, you know what? You disappear. You pull a Houdini. It doesn't just happen. The men don't just do this, but the women do it as well. And what also happens is that when you run, you justify it, you rationalize it, you make excuses. Well, you know what? His teeth weren't perfectly white. He had a couple extra pounds on him. One of my favorite, he was too nice. I'm like, too nice? Now, I get it if the guy was a total wimp, but if a guy, I see this all the time, it's like, you know what? He was just too nice. And I'm like, too nice? Explain that. And it's like, well, he just was there for me, and whatever I wanted, he like was there willing to help out. I'm like, isn't that what you want? Don't you want a guy that you can count on, that you can trust, that who's going to be there, that's going to make your life easier? Now, if that doesn't work for you, okay, it's your journey. But when I was in a relationship, I wanted to be with someone who was too nice. I wanted to be with someone who was nice, but who also had a backbone, who also was able to stand in their power and say, you know what, this doesn't work for me, and I'm going to speak my truth. So there's a difference between being too nice and being a pushover. So again, you want to look at that, and you also want to understand that if you tend to run, if you make excuses when you run, you rationalize and justify, that's a sign that you've got some unresolved emotional stuff. So again, deal with it. And the third sign that you may have some emotional baggage is that you put up walls. Okay, you make it really hard for a guy to get to know you. It's like, and I see this all the time. One of the things that a lot of members in our GPS for Love community do is, what? I don't need a man. And it's like, I pay my bills, I buy my own stuff, I cook my own meals. I don't need a man. Well, guess what? If you don't need a man, why is a guy going to want to be with you? Okay, a guy's going to go, you know what? You don't need me. So why do I want to be with someone who doesn't need me? Now, there's a difference between needing a man and wanting a man. Okay, so when you put up walls and you put on this tough ass act that, what, I don't need anybody, that's bullshit, because we all need each other. We human beings, we have this need for connection. We are wired to connect with other people. Babies come into the world and there's something called failure to thrive syndrome, which is basically if they don't get that emotional bond, emotional connection, they could literally die. When my first son was born, he was premature and he had to be in the ICU, the NICU, for a week. And they actually had volunteers who would come when the parents weren't there to come and put the baby on their chest. Even though they weren't the biological parent, okay, either they had no strong emotional connection to that child, they were human beings. And just putting that child on their chest allowed that baby to get that emotional bond, that emotional connection, which produces all types of chemicals and hormones in their brain, which makes them feel good, which makes them thrive, which makes them grow. So as human beings, let's stop the bullshit where I don't need anyone. Yes, you do. We all do. And so let's be honest, that I don't need anyone bullshit is all a protective mechanism that we use so that we won't get hurt again. And so that's why we put up walls. And what I do when I work with my private mentoring clients, I teach them, don't put up a wall, put up a fence. Okay? You don't want to, a wall keeps everybody out. A fence is designed to protect you and only allow those creatures in that you want in. And it's going to keep the majority out, but it's going to let the good ones in. And that's the way that's the way to be emotionally healthy and to be open to a true, happy, fulfilling relationship. So I know this was a lot, but it had to be a lot. So today, what I want you to do is take a little mirror time. Okay? Step out of your life as an observer and look at these 3 signs. Look at these clues that indicate you may have some unresolved emotional stuff. And again, we just put the word baggage on it because it's just a common notation that we all use. But I'm not big on labels. I'm big on understanding what the labels really mean, what they represent. So if you have some unresolved emotional stuff, do yourself a favor. It's going to make your life so much better in the long run. Just face it and deal with it. Trust me, it's not as painful as ignoring it and running from it. So again, to review, the 3 signs that you may have some unresolved emotional stuff is number 1, you have a hard time trusting guys. Number 2 is you run. When things start to get hot and heavy, you start to feel an emotional connection. You start to feel the possibilities. Instead of opening up to it, you run from it. And the third one is you put up walls. You make it difficult for a guy to get to know you, to get close to you, to fall in love with you. And all of these things, when you look at them, are simply protective mechanisms that you're using unconsciously to protect yourself. So after you take your mirror time, I want you to go ahead and put your questions, comments, and feedback in the box below. And the reason I want you to do that is because I want you to understand you're not alone. As human beings, we go through this journey thinking, I'm the only one who had shitty parents. I'm the only one who had my heart broken. I'm the only one who was cheated on. I was the only one who was lied to. I was the only one who was led on to. And we think it only happens to you. But it happens to everybody. It's so common. And the more we understand that we're not alone and that we all go through the same journey, the same experience, the more we can support each other and help each other get past it and get through it, ultimately getting to where you want to go. So go ahead, take that mirror time, put your question, comment, and feedback in the box below. As always, an honor, privilege to be with you. I'll see you next time. Much love.